Recent data reveals that the ages of 18 to 24 are not having steady relationships.
I'm genuinely curious as to why Gen Z decided as a whole to not even try in relationships anymore.
I really don't understand how almost my entire generation has basically lost interest in dating.
The generation is overly freaked out. Why can't we just take it slow? Go to the dinners, go to the dates, just vibe.
I feel like we're the only generation that when you're dating and you show interest in a person, that makes you weird. Like,
when you date in Gen Z, guess what happens? You have options. Too many options, because we have Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, all these apps, Instagram. It's the illusion of choice.
Our generation does not understand love. Our generation is so opposed to being hurt by love that they choose to not feel it. And that's not okay.
Hey everyone, it's Bree. Welcome to my channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why Gen Z isn't dating anymore. I've been seeing, a lot of conversations around this topic about why Gen Z has chosen to not even bother with dating and entering into the dating pool. I feel like we've seen a ton of relationship topics and debates online from people. And when you have so many, negative stories being shared and just all of this, I don't even want to call it propaganda, but again, people have shared so many negative experiences when it comes to dating that I feel like it's turned a lot of people off. And I don't think that this is just a Gen Z issue either. I know people, again, love to say that it's a Gen Z issue, but I have been seeing it across the board, especially people who are coming online to share their experiences with dating and people talking about how the dating pool sucks and it has pee in it. Like, I've seen people of all generations talk about their struggles, both men and women. And I feel like it's starting to make people not even want to bother with dating. And I can speak to that as well, just with my own experience with that. I feel like there's a few different reasons as to why, Gen Z is kind of tapping out when it comes to dating. And I feel like, when you're talking about the folks who don't want to date anymore, they fall into two different categories. Because I feel like in today's society, we tend to view things from extremes, right? Like, there isn't a lot of nuance given. I feel like people just look at things from a very extreme point of view, right? And so I feel like you have one group of people who they're just scared, right? They're scared, they're terrified, they don't even want to bother. They're really afraid of getting hurt and getting their heart broken, whether it's because they've seen other people in their lives getting heartbroken or they've seen people online, again, speak about their dating experiences from a very negative lens, and they see other people hurting and they don't really see a lot of positive success stories. So you have people that are like, you know what, I don't even want to try, I don't even want to bother, especially people who didn't really have a lot of dating experience. Like, I know for me and a lot of other people who grew up kind of sheltered, we didn't really get to start dating and exploring until we got older. Yeah, I feel like you have those group of people that either don't have experience at all, or they do have experience, maybe their experiences were just really, really bad in the past, and they don't even want to try, they don't even want to bother. Then you have another set of individuals who don't really take dating too seriously, right? Like, you see this increase of like hookup culture and people just being very casual with folks and they're not really looking for commitment. And here's the thing, I don't think that way of thinking is overall bad, because I don't believe that everybody needs to get married or everyone needs to be in a committed relationship. I don't think that commitment is for everybody. I don't. I mean, clearly we see there are just some folks out there who being in a committed relationship is not for them. They can't seem to get it quite right. And maybe what works best for them is just being casual with people, as long as there's a mutual agreement. But we're seeing like a big increase of that, right? People being interested in just having casual hookups and not really, wanting anything more out of that. And I think, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, I think there are a plethora of reasons as to why you might fall into this overall category of just not wanting to date. Now, obviously, people will say that when you are in your teens and when you're in your younger 20s, that is when you should be exploring, right? You shouldn't be taking dating too seriously. And on that, I think to each his own. Again, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to go about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with being being young, being in your early 20s and wanting commitment, I also don't see anything wrong with kind of just doing you for a minute. I think there are benefits to both, and ultimately it's just up to you what you want, right? Like, I've spoken about this time and time again on this channel about how I am someone that values commitment. I've never been, a casual hookup type of person at all. That's not really what I'm interested in. Like, I'm interested in just being with one person and working towards something, long lasting, right? But I understand that everyone's not like that, and I don't put my beliefs onto other people. People can do, whatever they want. However, I do think, and again, it's not all, but I do think that there are some people that prioritize hookup culture because of their fear of commitment. And I think that, when it comes to that, it's obviously rooted in something deeper. And I think just as a society in general, I feel like relationships and marriages aren't valued the way that they used to be. And again, this is, personal opinion. Some people don't care about marriage at all, and that's fine. Again, I don't even think everyone should be married. I know people have different ways of labeling their relationship as well. Like, some people may not believe in marriage, but they might believe in life partnership, right? So they don't want to do the whole like government courthouse paperwork situation, right? But they, are looking for someone to spend, their time with. And I think that that's perfectly fine if that's what works for you and that person, right? But I do think there has been a shift in how people view relationships, and the shift has been negative. Again, we see it all the time online with these gender wars and people going back and forth and having such strong opinions about dating. And you're also having a lot of people that are running around hurt and unhealed and taking that out on other people. And so when you're seeing that, right, you have folks that are trying to combat hurt with hurt, right? Like, they keep getting hurt from other people, so they choose to hurt others as a way to protect themselves, even though they're hurting other people in the process. And you also have people that are like, you know what, I'm hearing all this bad, negative stuff. I don't even want no parts. I don't even want to do anything with anybody. I don't want to even bother, because it sounds like it's just all bad, right? And obviously it's not all bad, but that is what is portrayed online. But even with among friend groups as well, like, you might be surrounded around people that are in bad, toxic relationships, and so you're just like, oh, well, if this is just how people are nowadays, like, is it even worth it? Right? And I will say, right, because there's been a few relationship type of topics that I've covered in the past, and although y'all have been pretty okay in my comment section, I will say that, like, as I've talked about some of these topics and I've seen other people talk about relationship topics, people online have such strong opinions, which, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with having an opinion, but I think the issue currently is that people are trying to put their beliefs and their opinions on other people. And there's also a lot of stereotyping going around, again, on both sides. And so people are constantly looking for a reason to bash the other gender.
If you still participate in gender wars in the year 2025, you are an NPC. Because you mean to tell me we got one side, which is women that say that they hate all men, that all men should die, all men are bad, men ain't shit. Then on one side we got men saying that all women ain't shit, women are gold diggers, treat women like they property, all women are objects. Like, what, bro? And I just sit back and laugh at this whole thing too, because we really got people on the internet fighting each other over which gender is better. Y'all like not see how goofy y'all sound right now? Y'all are literally like little kids fighting over a piece of candy. And then the same ones that participate in this stuff talking about, ooh, I hate all men and I hate all women, be the same ones that complain later on talking about why they can't find a good man or woman. And what's funny is y'all don't just talk about the whole thing on social media. Y'all be going on podcasts talking about it, just upholding gender wars. Because at the end of the day, men and women need each other. That is probably one of the main reasons why we was put on earth, so men and women can come together and work together. So if you're one of these radical raging feminists and one of these raging red pillars that talk about how much you hate the opposite gender, put the phone down, get rid of the podcast equipment, and go outside and touch grass.
And so when there's so much of that happening, it can make it difficult to even view dating in a positive lens. And I do wonder how much of that is seeping into real life. Because again, I have seen TikToks, I have seen shorts of people who have gone on dates. And, some of this stuff that's being spewed online gets brought up, when it comes to dating. Or, when you have these debates about like, splitting the bill or who pays for the first date. And all this stuff, you're seeing a lot of those conversations that are happening online being manifested into real life. Like now people are actually experiencing these things because of what they've heard online. Or you see people doing some of the things, some of the toxic stuff that's being said online, which isn't great and makes dating just a horrible experience for everybody, right? And that's why for me, like, I've calmed down a lot on like relationship topics, more specifically with celebrities, because like again, with all this stuff happening with like Holly and Sky and even Kiki, like there's stuff going on with her. Like there's been so much stuff happening and people spewing just some terrible, awful, unempathetic takes online in regards to these situations. And so I hesitate to make content on that type of, news, because even though I always try to approach these situations, right, from an empathetic lens, unfortunately the internet is not that way, and I just don't want to invite that type of energy on my channel from what I've just seen online, especially like on blog sites and things like that. So, it's really tough. And again, like if you were somebody like me who grew up sheltered, you don't really have any guidance on how to go about dating, and it can be really scary and really terrifying. And like I said, if your first relationship ever as an adult ends up being very toxic and abusive and manipulative, like it's gonna make you hesitate a lot when it comes to dating. And back on the topic of gender wars, there are a lot of negative stereotypes being thrown out there that people are actually believing and feeding into, again, with both men and women. I feel like there's a narrative going around about men and that all men are abusive and manipulative and narcissistic. That word gets thrown around all the time, and that men be gaslighting. And here's the thing, they do be that sometimes, right? Like there are definitely men out here that are abusive, that are manipulative, that are narcissistic, but you can't just throw that label on to every single man, even just from like a basic general level, right? A man can be terrible, right? Terrible, awful, but he could just be a bad guy or could have just treated you bad. Just because a guy treats you bad doesn't mean that he's automatically all these labels that are spewed online, right? And again, same thing for women. I feel like women are now being viewed in this lens of being money hungry and being materialistic, and they're, using men and being manipulative and lying, and again, like there are so many negative stereotypes being painted on both sides. I feel like because of that, when people are starting to date and to mingle, they're going into it like already thinking negatively and already having these stereotypes, and again, all of these arguments that are happening online, they're already going into it with a negative lens, or they're going into it with the thought of, I need to protect myself, so I'm going to be, this way. I'm going to be cold, and I'm not going to be, open and honest with the person because I don't want to get hurt and I don't want to get played. I feel like people go into dating already expecting the worst, so that's how they treat it. And, when there's so much of that happening and people aren't doing the work that they need to do in order to date in a healthy way, people are just like, you know what, I'm cool, I'm all right. But I think whichever approach that you're coming at it from, it's still not healthy either way. Like whether it's from like genuine fear and I don't even want to try, or I'm gonna try but I'm gonna do it from a way that's super unhealthy and toxic, I think both are not good. Again, I do think that some of it has to do with our exposure or lack thereof to dating, when prior to becoming, an adult and like being out in the road and really experiencing how people are and how people can be. That's why you're seeing a lot of these relationship podcasts and gurus and all these folks building such big platforms, because people are seeking advice. They're seeking mentorship on how to go about dating, and they're getting it from a lot of these relationship gurus and content creators, like even people who don't even really have credentials, like they just have a platform, like, but you have people that are almost like worshiping these folks and just following everything that they say. But if they're spewing out things that are not healthy and that are not productive, then it's gonna lead to more and more people just getting hurt and ending up with the wrong person and not treating people well or not being treated well.
I desperately want you guys to know and truly believe that any dating coach
or somebody who gets on the internet to tell you as a woman that these are the things that you need to do, exclusive information that apparently only they have to give you. We don't know their credentials, but they're the only ones who can help you become closer to your destiny of finding your dream guy or being someone's dream girl. They are scamming you. It is a grift. There is nothing that you can do in this world to make yourself qualified to tell somebody else the things that they need to do to find their soulmate. Number one, because your soulmate would like you. I feel like that idea alone is so revolutionary because society is built off of telling women that these are the things that they need to do to become worthy of a partner. This may be hard to digest. Whether you wear makeup or not, whether you go out on a Tuesday versus a Saturday, whether you text back in 5 minutes or an hour, is not going to deter the person who actually likes you for you. They are 100% preying on women's innate need to be perfect and to fix themselves to find love. That is why they are talking to you and not to men. I don't care how many successful relationships they've built. I don't care how many coaching sessions they've done. You will never know those people and you will never know the quality of their relationships. And we have to stop acting like a lot of people won't just be in a relationship to be in a relationship, especially people who are willing to pay buku dollars to a self-proclaimed dating coach or expert. In my humble opinion, finding your person or your person finding you rather is purely luck. And you can see it one of two ways. You could think that it's sad because you have no control over it, or you can see it the way that I do, which is it's divinely amazing. You are worthy of love that you're going to receive just as you are right now. And all you have to do is just keep living your fucking life. Just my 2 cents.
This is a hard topic for me to cover because if I am honest, I also fall into the same category of I don't even want to date. Like I am at a point where I've spent so much of like the past 2 to 3 years like healing and finding myself again and being happy again that the thought of possibly losing all of that again is enough to make me not even want to. And I recognize that, you know, I've sat here and I've said how unhealthy that is, but I can also acknowledge that I've also fallen victim to that, of having like a really bad dating experience and being like, you know, I don't want to do that again. And I think what's scary for a lot of people and what's scary for me is, you know, when you're coming out of a situation that's so bad, you don't know if the next person is going to be better, and you want to hope and trust yourself that you're able to better recognize red flags and that you're able to put forth those boundaries that you may not have had before, and that you'll be able to make better decisions. But that does require you to trust yourself, and I think doing that can be really scary sometimes. Again, especially when you see so much negativity out there and you see that there are people out there that are looking to hurt others because they've been hurt. People who have these toxic mindsets when it comes to dating. And you also have folks that are just not open and honest with who they are and what they want. And I think that could resolve a lot of issues. If people would just say what it is that they want, like say that you want a traditional relationship, say that you want to get married or that you don't want to get married. I think the more that we are open and honest about what it is that we want, the better dating will be for everybody. Because when you try to present yourself as someone that you're not, eventually that's going to come out. Eventually that's going to cause issues down the line, and you're only going to cause more harm and pain to that person later on. It's better to just be open and honest, see if you are a fit with that person, and if not, you know, move on to the next. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole thing of either trying to get that person to change themselves or you're trying to change yourself. Like, that's just going to cause more pain in the long run. And I think a lot of people are doing that as well. People are not being themselves when it comes to dating, and that's also causing a lot of issues. And for me, that's also a big fear as well, of like, you know, everybody kind of shows their best representative, right? When you're meeting someone new for the first time, when you first start dating, like, you're not just gonna throw, you know, all of your baggage and all of your flaws on a person when you first meet them. I understand that completely. But some people are really good at hiding some skeletons in their closet, and sometimes, you know, those skeletons don't come out until you are far in and your feelings are invested. And that's really scary and terrifying. And I commend the people that can just cut off a person when it's not working and just move forward. I would like to think that I'm at that point now, but I don't know. You know, I'm a very loyal person. I'm also a very forgiving person. And, you know, I put up with a lot in the past. And I would like to think that I am not in that same space again. Like almost to the point where I'm concerned that that's going to cause me issues. Like, because now I'm at a point where I went from being overly forgiving and tolerating a lot of stuff to now I don't tolerate a whole lot. I don't have the patience. I just, you know, but again, when it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships, you need to be patient. You need to be forgiving. But like, what is that line? I think figuring out that line is tough, you know, again, especially for someone that does not have a lot of experience in that department, right? I can empathize with people that are just scared. They're just scared to get out there because of what's been happening and people's experiences, and just, you know, heartbreak is hard. It's tough. I feel like people downplay how hard it is. And obviously, like, it's harder for some people to get over than others. And again, I envy the folks that can, you know, put your all into a relationship, but the minute it's not working, you can cut them off, move on, and do you. You know, for me, it took a long time for me to finally get to a place where I feel okay again and I feel like myself again. Like, I feel like I only just now got to that point. And so again, because it took me so long to feel okay again and to get my confidence back and to start enjoying life again and not be so depressed and hurt over what I had went through, I'm like, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to put myself through that again. I do not want to allow another person to take away my happiness for that long again. I don't want to go through the whole crying every single day, losing my hair, not eating. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so again, I'm even going through my own thing of like, you know, do I even want to bother? Is it even worth it? And that's a conversation that I've had, you know, with friends as well, of like, you know, obviously finding true love is a risk, right? And you have to risk getting your heart broken. You have to risk it not working out. You have to risk that you're going to spend time with this person and be vulnerable with this person, and it still may not work out and they still may hurt you. And you have to decide for yourself if finding true love and finding your person is worth that hurt. And where I'm at right now in that journey, I just don't know if it's worth it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, if I can get to a place, and I feel like I'm getting to that place now, where I'm happy and I'm content on my own. Like, I'm doing my own thing, you know, I'm planning trips, like I'm living life, you know, for me. And I genuinely like wake up happy, and I find ways to enjoy my own company, you know? And so I'm like, I'd rather stay in this than to risk getting into another relationship and going through the same thing that I went through, or possibly worse. Because again, you never know. And so, you know, I'm going through that journey with myself of like, you know, do I even want to try again? Right now I'm leaning towards no, but you know, that's just where I'm at with it. So I empathize with other people within my generation that are like, I don't even want to bother. I empathize with the people that have tried and have just had horrible experiences and they're just exhausted. And, you know, for the people out there who are going into the dating scene, you know, very guarded, I do understand that as well. Because again, that's also something that I'm going to have to work through if I do decide to date again, because my wall is all the way all the way here. I'm not even going to hold you. But I also recognize that if I were to be genuine and intentional about dating, it's going to require me to be vulnerable. It's going to require me to, you know, take down those walls. And so if you are not in a space to do that, and if you're not in a space to show up as your authentic self and to give the person a fair chance, then, you know, maybe it's not time, right, for you to be out there, you know, and dating. And that's okay. I know there's a societal pressure as well, especially for women, to be married, have kids, have all these things by a certain age. And I'm at that age currently where people are starting to look at me like, okay, so, you know, where's your significant other? Like, where, not necessarily where's your ring per se, but people are starting to be like, hey, like, if this is something that you want in terms of like marriage and kids, like, oh, you know, time's ticking, you got to do something about that. But also, I can't just snap my fingers and make someone appear, you know, because for me as well, even though I am in the space of like, I don't really want to date right now, I don't know if I even want to date ever again. I also haven't been presented with that opportunity. I haven't had any guys like hit me up or, you know, approach me, ask me out on a date. I haven't even had that happen since I've been single. And so, you know, again, I can't just magically make things happen, but it's hard to, like, with us now being in that age range where people are getting engaged and married and having kids, and people are kind of looking at you like, all right, so what you gonna do? It's tough, but you really have to decide for yourself where you are in that and what you want and what makes you feel comfortable. And again, there's also some people that just may not be into that, who may not want to be in a relationship. They don't want to get married. They don't want to have kids. I know a lot of us are, you know, on that kind of energy of we don't even really want kids. And I might make a video talking about that because especially with everything that's going on right now in the government and stuff, I'm like, I don't know about the whole kid thing anymore. I'm gonna be honest with you, especially now that I'm looking at it from a more clear and mature perspective of like, hey, like having kids is like a really big deal. And I've always known that kids are a big deal, but from the sense of like, as much as I would love to, like, if I were gonna have a kid, like I want it to be under like perfect circumstances, but the issue is that you can't guarantee perfect circumstances, right? Like you can't guarantee that the person is gonna stay or that the person is going to equally do their part to be involved. And so for me, again, that's enough for me to be like, you know, maybe kids aren't for me, because I don't want a child bad enough to where I got to do it on my own. I think that is where I'm at with it. And so I feel like because of that, I probably shouldn't have a kid at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, if I am not in a space where I'm like, I want a kid so bad that I'm willing to, I don't feel that way. Like, I just don't feel that way. But I know there's other people that do feel that way. But for me, no. And again, just now coming to realize how some men can be, I'm like, you know, I don't know if it's worth putting my body through that and being responsible for a human being if I cannot guarantee that they're going to be right there helping me and staying committed to the relationship to where we can, you know, raise a family together. I don't have enough trust. And that, again, that's on me. I don't have enough trust in others to embark on such a big responsibility. That's just kind of where I'm at with it, right? And again, that's something that I have to work through. I never really been a big kids person either. Like, I've never really had a big desire for kids, like, ever. The only time I ever really even thought about it was when I was in my last relationship. But now coming out of that, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I cannot bank on the other person doing right, so I gotta decide what I want for me. So yeah, I think there are a lot of different reasons as to why so many people in my generation, Gen Z, are single right now and, you know, aren't using dating apps, and they're not even bothering. I think it's a mix of what's being said online and the influences that are online. I think it's a mix of where society is at currently and people just being very combative and being very just nasty and mean to each other. I just think there's a lot happening right now with society, both online and offline, that are contributing to people not even wanting to get into any type of commitment. When you're seeing relationships as well, like, falling apart and not working out, you're seeing all these divorces happening, not just celebrity divorces. Divorce rates in general are up as well. And so, because even with that, like, when you have these conversations around marriage, the first thing people go to is like, oh, well, marriage doesn't guarantee anything. People are breaking up every single day, and that's their reason for not even wanting to do it, because it might not work out. I think that's just the approach that everybody has right now, and I do think it's sad to a certain extent. I do. And again, I put myself in that category as well. Like, it's just, it's tough. It's tough. Like, you know, I feel like people be acting like they hard and they tough, but our hearts are fragile. Okay? Our hearts can be really fragile sometimes. And so I get people not wanting to be hurt. And so I don't know what the solution is other than, again, if you are looking for a long-term relationship, if you are looking for commitment, but you don't feel as though you can trust yourself and you can trust others, I do think that is something that needs to be explored, whether it's through therapy or whatever inner healing work that you have to go through. You know, I think that is important. I also recognize the folks that are like, hey, this is something that is outdated. You know, I know, like, I've seen people say that as well, that like marriage and being in long-term relationships is outdated. I don't don't necessarily agree. I think the structure of long-term relationships and marriage has changed, right? And I think that, you know, you have some people that are on board with those changes and others that are not. But like I said, that's why it's important to communicate what is it that you want, because it may not be in the traditional sense that society tries to push on you. So that's why it's important to figure out what you want. And I think ultimately that is the end all be all of this conversation, right? Figure out what you want, figure out what you need to do in order to achieve that in a healthy way, and don't feel pressured by society to want anything that you don't want either. Like I said, I don't think there's a wrong or a right answer in regards to dating and commitment. I think it's just a matter of figuring out what you want and going about it in a way that is healthy, so that way you are still getting what you want, but you're not hurting yourself or others in the process. But yeah, those are all of my thoughts on this topic. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead, get a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.